Hello, so I'm not good at voiceovers, but I have fabric here that I folded over. I am using this square here to cut along all the edges to make 2 squares. Once I've cut out those 2 squares, I like to take them apart, right sides out. This is the wrong side of the fabric. I then like to place the correct sides, the sides that I want to be on the outside of my fabric, facing each other. I get them all lined up, and it's good. Next, what I like to do is just showing you thread. Make a knot at the end of your thread. This is how I like to make a knot. One knot, 2 knot, and for good measure, I always like to make a third. 3 knot. Next, I am outlining the edges of where I want to sew along with some chalk using the same ruler. I go along 3 sides. We're going to leave one side open, as that will be the open of the pouch. I do apologize though, as when I made this, I was sick, so forgive me. Next, we are going to do a basting stitch all around the fabric because I didn't want to use pins and stab myself while trying to hand sew this. So we use a running stitch without a knot and just pulling the thread through the fabric. This will help keep the fabric pieces together in the hand sewing. It doesn't matter how big or small. Usually the smaller the better it'll hold together. But for me, I just did what I did as I was fighting a sinus infection. So forgive me, as I am not the greatest at making these types of videos, as I am new to it. So apologies. But I am just doing a basting stitch all around the edges, not touching the chalk line, to secure the 3 edges. I did make a mistake here, and I pulled my basting stitch on the back of my fabric, which I really should have pulled it on the other side, but it's no big harm. It's just a little annoying, and when you're sick, your brain doesn't really fully think everything. And then just for the extra added measure, I added 1 diagonal basting stitch. You can see why I messed up there, but I added a diagonal stitch to help secure all the way from one corner to the other. Then you just cut it off, but you want to make sure you leave some extra thread because this is not a permanent stitch. This is a temporary stitch just to hold it. Now, I will admit, my stitches I used a back stitch. I made this the other day and I was still feeling very sick, so my stitches were not good. And this is the first time I'm making these type of videos, so forgive me. But what you're going to want to do is do a back stitch along all 3 edges. I will say the thing I made the mistake on is I made my stitches way too big. Way too big. The smaller you can make your back stitches, the closer to the back stitches, the better. But again, as I made this while sick, I was just doing sort of a rush. It took me a total of 7 minutes on each side. So I did try to shorten this video as much as I could. But you want to do small back stitches, not these large back stitches that I made. I like to make little knots on the corners before I continue, just for the extra added strength. At least I did do that in my state of brain fog sickness. So then, continue along with your back stitches. Please do not do the mistake I made, making big back stitches. The smaller, the better. Also, if you ever get a break from trying to fix your threads, just remember you can always take your thread out and redo it. You can tie it in a knot, make a new thread. So this is the finishing of the 3 sides. Again, I apologize. I was editing this video when I was sick and making it while sick. Oh, look at that. One more side. My bad. See, we're doing this in one take. My voiceover is in one take. So you're going to hear all the blubber, blubber, blubber. My bad. All right, now this is the end of the 3 sides. So I like to add extra backstitch before I make a knot. So I make a little loop before pulling it through, and then I add my knots. I like to pinch my finger down onto the fabric to secure the knot. Cut that off. Get it as close as you can without cutting your knot. And then now we're going to take out our basting stitch. So all you got to do is you can stick your finger like I did under these little loops. You can also just cut it. You can just pull it. I would recommend, making small cuts and then you can just pull it. But this is how easy it is to take out the basting stitch. Here I am showing you the example of just pulling out the stitch itself. Whee! Look at that. Like it never even happened. Beautiful. Now we are flipping it out. This is where you will see why I say please do smaller stitches. As my stitches were large and uncomfortable, so I pushed out the corners. And you can see there's little holes in the gaps in the seams. The smaller the stitch, the better. Now you can make a little running stitch along the top of the bag, but otherwise smaller stitches better. I hope you enjoy. Happy sewing!